If you're the owner of a $1.5 to $5 million company and you want to sell that company to somebody else someday, I'm going to show you exactly why grinding it out 60 hours a week isn't just costing you the life you could be living right now. It actually makes your company less valuable and less sellable to somebody who might want to buy it in the future. I'm also going to share with you 2 key strategies you can start implementing today that's going to pull a lot of the work off of your plate. By the way, my name is Brent, and I run a commercial real estate services company that does just under $2 million a year with 34% net profit, and the whole thing takes me about 90 minutes a week to run. And full disclosure, I don't have an 8-figure exit. I actually chose not to sell my company because it spits off great cash and our risk is mitigated through hundreds of clients. Our churn rate is near zero, and as I mentioned, the whole thing takes me about 90 minutes a week to run. But here's why I am qualified to talk about what creates and destroys value in these small companies. The owners of most companies, they only get to see inside one, the one that they own. But I've had the privilege of being inside over 600 different companies. My entire job right now is to go into these founder-dependent companies and pull work off of the founder's plate. And on average, my clients get back about 14 hours off of their calendar every single week within about 30 days. And so I've seen time and time again what happens in these founder-dependent companies where the founder's got to be in every single room and the weight of the world is kind of on their shoulders because everything the company does is up in their head. I've seen what happens in those versus the companies that are run on systems and processes and have a good leadership structure behind the founder. And these companies operate without the founder in every single room. So by no means am I approaching this from the lens of an investment banker, but I am speaking at this as the guy who fixes what would otherwise detract value from your company in the first place. And I want to get into this today by first giving you a little bit of a reality check about what the marketplace does for companies that are in 1.5 to 5 million, which is most of them. Only 0.04% of companies ever get to the 8-figure mark. So most of the companies are in this range. There's a big misconception, I think, on value in this space for those companies. Because most of the time, the founder thinks that because they've created value for themselves, you probably live a nice lifestyle if you've got a company in the range that we're talking about here. Because you created value for yourself, you think naturally that's going to translate into value for somebody else. But most often, that's not the case. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine that is in private equity the other day, and she shared with me a couple of interesting statistics that really help you understand what the marketplace is like. She says that only 1 out of 4 companies that are in this micro range, under 5 million, find a buyer. That means 75% of the companies, when the founder decides to sell, there's nobody there to buy it. She told me the key reason for that is something called key man risk. And that's where the founder is responsible for a lot of different things. They might be responsible for sales and ops and admin. And if the founder stopped doing any of those things, then we're going to take a hit to either revenue or profit. And that elevates the perception of risk on the part of the buyer. And here's another statistic that she shared with me that I thought was also really powerful was that key man risk can often be a value detractor to the tune of 3 times of the multiple less when there is founder or key man risk inside of a company. That means 3 times the value that you could have gotten paid gets erased when you're the founder of the company. If there's ever been an argument to work less and systematize more, I would say that's it. So overall, the goal is to really remove key man risk and make the company less dependent upon you. I'm going to give you a couple different scenarios so you can really understand what you're playing for. Most of the time, when there's a dollar sign attached to something, we tend to pay more attention to it. So I want to walk through a couple different scenarios here with 2 different companies. We'll call it Company A and Company B. In Company A, we've got a founder that's kind of like the hero founder working 60 plus hours a week, responsible for sales, responsible for ops, like doing a lot of things that keep that business moving. I would make the argument that a lot of companies have this heroic founder. You might be the heroic founder yourself. Company B, we'll call that the systems-driven company. They've got SOPs for everything. They've got systems dialed in, and the founder actually in that company works less than 10 hours a week. Let's say that both of those companies, Company A and Company B, both have $1 million a year in net profit. Awesome. So we've got a level playing field, at least in terms of the numbers. But in company A with the heroic founder, the marketplace is really going to look at the value of that company like a job with a bunch of helpers around it. So on average, that type of company, and this is the statistics as a whole, that's going to get an average of a 2.5 multiple. So if you have $1 million in net income, 2.5 multiple, 2.5 million is the gross value of that company in company A. Let's look at company B, the systems dependent company that's got SOPs. Founder is hardly working any hours at all. The marketplace is going to look at that as low risk and high transferability. So they're going to give that a multiple, again, on average, of 4.5 times whatever your EBITDA or your SDE, seller discretionary earnings, is. So 4.5 with a $1 million profit would be a company value of 4.5 million. So the gap here is huge. It's a gap of $2 million, almost double what you would get if you were the heroic founder. So it makes sense that we pull you out of a lot of the things that you're doing in your company right now. So I promised earlier that I was going to give you 2 different ways that you could start taking work off of your plate this week, and you can start implementing these right now. So let's talk about what those are. The first thing is a time audit for the founder, which probably sounds like one of the most painful things ever until you realize that this alone can take 10 to 20 hours of work off of your calendar every single week. So let's talk about how to run the play here. So the first thing is that we're going to run a 14-day time audit. And what that means is you'll create a spreadsheet that's got chunks of time in it that are anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes in it. And you're just going to track the tasks that you do each 15 to 30 minute block. I like to do this in 15-minute blocks because it helps me remember to be in the cadence. You're going to run this play every day for 14 days, and you're going to label every single task. There's a couple different labels that I want you to put on this. For example, you have sales, marketing, ops, people, and admin. So we're going to have one of those labels on each one of the tasks. And then I want you to give it a second label, which is either strategic or recurring. Then at the end, for every recurring task, I want you to put these things into 4 different buckets when you're running this time audit. The first is high impact, can't delegate. If that's the case, then that's what you keep, at least for now. Second bucket is high impact, but you can transfer it. That's going to be like the first thing on your delegation list, and we'll talk about that in a second. Third bucket is low impact, can transfer. And that's where you're going to be automating that or delegating that to the cheapest competent resource that you can find to do that task. And then the fourth is low impact and you can't transfer. When you have something in this bucket, you really need to question that task's existence and you delete those things where possible. So the output that we're looking for when we do a time study is a ranked list of 5 to 10 different tasks that repeat weekly and don't really require you as the founder to be doing those. If you don't know where to start with a time audit, I actually created a free tool that you can download. I'll drop a link in the description to this. That is called the 48-hour Founder Time Reset. It's going to be a starting process for a time audit. And the goal of it is to help get you back 3 hours this week just by going through that process. You can download the free toolkit with the link in the description. But let's go to the second thing here that you can do in order to start taking stuff off of your plate this week. So you're going to pick one thing from the time audit that was high impact but can transfer. And it's good if that thing happens at least weekly. And then you're just going to delegate that, but you're going to delegate it probably differently than you might have before. If you've delegated before and work comes back to you, it's most often because there just wasn't a system in place for delegation. I've found most effective to use what's called a 4D model in delegation. The first D is do the task. You got to do the task one more time and do it to the level of quality that you would want somebody else to do it. A lot of times, when we're doing so many things as the founder, like our quality can kind of fall off because there's so many different things that we're trying to get done. But when you do the task one more time, make sure to do it to the quality that you want somebody else to do it. The second D is document. So you're going to kind of do 1 and 2 at the same time. while you're doing the task, document everything you're doing. Quickest, easiest way to do that is record a Loom video, which is going to record you and it's going to record your voice and it's going to record your screen. Talk through the task in the most minute detail you can, because the person that's going to do that task in the future, you want them to reference that video rather than come ask you questions about it. So if you're hovering your mouse over a certain spot on the screen to get a drop-down menu, explain why you're doing that. And when you click something, explain why you're clicking that and what the output is supposed to be. So you've done and delegate, then you've got to demonstrate. And demonstrate's the third D in the model. Demonstrating this means that you're going to take what you've done and demonstrated, and then you've done and documented, then you're going to demonstrate that in front of the person that you want to do the task. So yeah, you get to do it one more time. But in this, you're also going to talk them through what you're doing, why you're doing it, and what the impact of that is. Bonus points if you've got enough time to sit there, watch them do it once, and then give them feedback on what they could do better or need to do better the next time they do it. The fourth D in this is to delegate it, right? Actually hand it off. But we're not just going to hand it off without any kind of tail behind it. What I would encourage you to do is have 1 to 2 KPIs per task that you hand off and some cadence of reviewing those KPIs for whatever it is that you delegated. That's going to make sure that the quality stays high without you having to do it. So in that, just doing one task that was from the high impact but can transfer, that happens weekly, you've taken one piece of key man risk and you've made it into a transferable, documented process. And that's just the start, right? You're going to get momentum while you're doing this. And that's where you're really going to see a lot more time and the reduction of key man risk in this whole thing. Like I mentioned a little bit earlier, if you're not really sure where to start, like you get it with the key man risk, but you don't really know where to start in getting stuff off of your plate right now, best place to do that is with the free toolkit that I built, the 48-hour founder time reset. It's got a time dividend dashboard in it. It's got a calendar cleanse SOP, and it's got a delegation board that's going to help you track every single thing that you want to do. I've also got handoff scripts in that thing. So it's a cool thing. I'll put a link in the description. You can download that, and you're probably going to get 3 hours back this week. That's what on average people get by going through that process. That's it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you on the next one.